So we talked about this Michigan sculpture when we were just assembling the Core 10 shell. It's copper time. At this point, we're fold forming copper sheet to wrap marine ply panels that are being attached to the face. I guess to give you some background on the whole fold forming, copper itself is an element which makes it essentially an incredibly durable metal versus an alloyed material that has different kinds of metals that are all brought together. Bronze, for instance, is an alloy that's mostly copper with some other materials alloyed in to give it a little more of a rigidity and other qualities, lower melting temperature and so on. With copper, we're dealing with a pure element, so we can heat it, bend it, manipulate it in any way, shape, or form, and it never loses its essential integrity. Evidence from heating that's locked into the surface in the form of patina, and that's these reds, and you get some green tones, blacks, and various brown tones, and that's all of that comes out after a series of annealing, quenching, folding, re-annealing, quenching, unfolding, and so on and so forth. Each of these panels are probably folded, annealed, and unfolded and refolded 5 or 6 different times to get this series of bends and the coloration that we're looking for. In the end, our goal in the end is to create a surface on this that speaks to the idea of Michigan being a very rich copper state in terms of its copper ore. When the color of our Core 10 is to a nice red patina, and we've got our full gloss on the surface of the copper, it should represent Michigan as a big copper ingot. Once our copper panels are finally folded, we've got front and back completely clad in copper, then all those panels will come out again, and then our Core 10 structure is going to go out of here and gets washed down with nitric acid, which expedites the patina process. It'll bring that coloration, that rusted coloration, to the surface, and we wash it down with a base to stop the acid process and the patina process, and then the Core 10 will stay at that nice red rust coloration basically forever. And then we'll reassemble our copper panels and deliver to the site. So here's just a brief sort of demonstration of the fold forming process. And what we try to do in the composition of the actual piece is to plan our folds to try and get some kind of continuity from one panel to the next. We don't want to be too specific about that because it becomes contrived at that point. There's something natural about the way that natural stone and natural ore exists in nature, and so we didn't want to get too specific, but also as a composition it makes sense to have the lines heading in certain directions and making some sense. But for this application, we're just going to randomly pick a couple points. You can see I just bend this copper over the edge of the table a little, fold it back by hand, and this is straight off the mill, so this sheet has been rolled out, and so it's not dead soft, it's not annealed, but it's also not as work hardened as it will be as soon as I finish hammering on it. So now that I've kind of put that gentle crease in it, mallet it out just to confirm that edge and give it a nice crisp edge. And we'll just fold it one more time just to be silly here. You can see it's pretty easy to work with. Now, if I was to just unfold this now, I would risk stressing the corner and breaking that edge, so I've got to anneal this. Now, bear in mind that I've got multi-layers of material now, so the way that I'm going to heat this is to lay off of my thinnest area, which is a single layer here, and put my heat into the stack of multi-layers. Copper can take a lot of heat. Melting temperature is about 2,000 degrees. What I'm looking for is color. And without the bright lights of filming on this, it's a lot easier to see the color. But there's a point where this is going to become a dull red, which is very hard to see with the light on it. But I know that the way that it reacts, where it turns, the color changes when the heat is on it versus when it's off it, and that tells me that it's nearly ready. But I'm going to flip this over because I've got a stack of material. I want to make sure I've got heat throughout. Being careful not to overheat. And never leaving my heat in one place for very long. I'm going to quench this briefly and I'll be right back. We quench the material in a pickle solution. It's a mild acid that eats away some of the oxide buildup created in the heating process. And you can see here in this bright color, this is where the heat didn't penetrate through the layers, and so I didn't get a good anneal there. But out here, it's absolutely dead soft. And now I unfold it, and you can see how dramatic these fold lines are and how interesting that changes just a corner of copper into some kind of a surface that's actually got some really dynamic qualities. But you can also see too, I've got some of my hazing. I don't have any of this, the textures that you may or may not be able to see on the camera here, but there are textures in the patina here that are from a continual heating and quenching and heating and quenching. You don't get it with the first round, but you get some of the effects. And so after going back and reworking this a few more times, we'd eventually get this really dramatic effect that you see in some of these panels.
All right, we're going to wrap one of the panels in the copper after the fold forming. It's pretty simple. We cut some exterior grade plywood that stays nice and flat with a papered face, and we primed it to seal up the edges. And after the fold forming, I just took and I bent one edge crisp to line it up, put a couple nails in it to hold it, trimmed the perimeter, and now I'm basically just going to take a mallet and bend the copper over. After the annealing process, the copper is just dead soft. It forms very nice. And you just tap it over. Follow the contour of your shape. And then we'll come back and put a little pin in there to hold it in its shape. Put another little nail in there. That's about it. Here's one that I done earlier. It's just folded over. This is the other side, which is this piece. Put up here.